Here we are, and with a deck like Memento being 5-0 at the European Championship, certainly already an accomplishment, but Richard is not done yet. Richard, no unknown to the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh scene. Last big accomplishment for him pretty much was a third place finish at YCS in Vancouver. And now he's back for more, back here on his home terrain in Germany to take it down here at the European World Championship qualifier.
Yeah, he's got a big fan in the crowd, Richard. I think it was for Richard. It might have been for Jonathan.
Yeah, there was someone.
Someone's very excited.
Totally.
To see one of our competitors on stream.
I think talking about excited, I don't know if Richard is too excited that he's starting with normal summon Maze. I think
don't really want to draw that.
Yeah, better normal summons. This is a one-off. This is something you want to search later on. The deck has plenty of options to search multiple cards or send them to the graveyard. So I think this is less than ideal. However, we've been trying to figure out after which cards these Memento lands are reimagined, and we've gotten behind plenty. I think this is a homage to Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, but we weren't...
if you say so. But the important thing is that it still is going to be able, even though it's not the optimal normal summon, to destroy itself and then search out the fusion spell of the deck, the Mementolian Fusion, which we just did, and we're also going to activate it just there.
Yep, I'm going to get this card up for you guys as well, as this is a rather newly printed fusion. This has loads of effects.
Yeah, and I mean, you can actually use materials from the graveyard as well if you were already destroying a monster on the field previously that turn. And that is what we're going to do. And also, additionally to drawing the maze, it looks like we also have drawn into our big boss monster, the Memento Kutiliga, I think
I think combined creation.
The combined creation, and those are actually both cards you want to go throughout your combo. You want to get to them, but you don't want to draw them necessarily as part of your starting hand. But if we have a way to get into the powerful fusion monster, the Mementolian Twin Dragon, I think everything could be turning out quite nicely.
Honestly, as Leo said, like, these are throwbacks to previous cards, and obviously a throwback to the twin-headed Thunder Dragon.
Yes.
Has to be the most powerful card. There's no doubt in my mind.
And there is a new card from Infinite Forbidden being destroyed there, and that is going to be Mementolian Sleepy.
The Sleepy Sheep.
The Sleepy Sheep, and we're going to be able, through the effect of Twin Dragon, by destroying the Sleepy, to search out two Memento monsters from our deck to our hand. One of them is the Horn Dragon, another classic one, now being in a new version.
And the other one is, of course, the Horse.
The Horse, as I love to call him, and that is, of course, Tatsu no Chigo, of course. It almost rhymed, honestly. And then, look at that. I think Memento is one of those decks that just does a lot of things, has a lot of steps in his combo, then to go for a pretty unique and interactive end field. And I think it's a huge advantage that a lot of people still don't really know what the deck does. Another really good card, as we see, and the card you usually want to stop when they're trying to get into their combo is the Tatsu no Chigo, because that can be special summoned out either when you control no face-up cards or when you only control the Memento cards.
And we're seeing the full power of the Memento cards right here as they are getting linked off to the Moon of the Closed Heavens, linking off into the Fiendsmith Requiem.
That will do, of course.
I mean, Jonathan's got to feel a bit happy now. He's like, I know that one. I didn't know what was going on before, but I know what's going on now.
Safe to run again, yeah, absolutely. And here we can use now the graveyard effect as well of the Mementolian Fusion.
Now we're popping a monster on the field, and then we're going to add a spell or trap card with Mementolian in its name to the hand.
It's a bit cheeky, this, because you get that effect of the Twin Dragon.
Ooh, and we're throwing a party, and it is a bone party there. And as you just said, we're going to also use the effect of the Twin Dragon in the graveyard, and that is going to enable to bring back a monster from the graveyard, and we're going to bring back the Tatsu no Chigo again. And the good thing here is that we are really using that fusion monster so well, because it's honestly so incredibly powerful. The fusion effect, the on-fusion effect was already so good, the summon effect, but then the graveyard effect on top of that, that card is really, honestly, the centerpiece of the deck.
Here comes the Sleepy.
Sleepy,
sorry, I'll have to say that correctly. Sleepy.
You are forgiven.
Can special summon itself, and I think you can fusion summon now.
And now we're going to get the fusion version of the big boss monster. Basti, can you pronounce it for me again?
I totally can. It's Tehudlika. Or Tehudlika? Tekutlika is pretty spot on, I think.
Tekutlika, yeah.
I know, I'm an expert with my Memento cards, and therefore the final fusion boss monster has now also reached the field. It's an interesting ordering here by Richard in his combo, because he has decided to already bring out his Fiendsmith Engraver, but also he now is continuing with his Memento combo. So interesting sequencing. I think it was important that he was bringing out the Tatsune Shigo before he went into the Fiendsmith cards, and then he wanted to secure the Engraver somehow already is on the field, because even if he gets nipped now, the Engraver would be in the graveyard and could be recovered from there, of course.
I thought you said this wasn't the ideal start, Leo, but he's played about 30 cards.
Yeah, that's what Memento does.
Okay.
And now we're back to a field that is completely empty with just a sequence in there. However, you can also banish the Creation King from the graveyard to get an additional effect. That is searching for the field spell, apparently.
Yeah, you could just get any Memento card from your deck to your hand.
I wonder if we're having a way to recycle the Creation King, because it is a pretty powerful interruption on the opposing turn.
Yep, absolutely. And Richard is constantly, while he's performing that long combo, explaining to his opponent, who very clearly is not super much of an expert with the Memento deck, and that is definitely something that's such a big advantage in that kind of a tournament, when your opponent just doesn't know what's going on and you can just catch them by surprise, and that is probably what Richard has been doing the last 5 rounds already, and those, as you can see with his score, have been super successful.
The good thing for Jonathan, though, is that he's running a Tenpai deck. Which means that he just has to attack a bunch of times.
That's true, but there's the rabbit again. Let's welcome the Silhouette Rabbit once more, and we're also, of course, with that, going after the most popular card to set with it, and that's going to be the Angel Statue as a rune. As Leo has described it, pretty much a Thunder King Ryo, but without the Colossus part, right?
Yeah, I came up with that myself. I didn't steal it from you.
Thank you so much for mentioning that.
How is this SP being summoned on turn 1? Who does that?
I mean, it's a decent interruption, isn't it? And I mean, the explanation most likely is that there is no IP in his extra deck, so we would have to go with the SP first.
I think this is also just playing around Nibiru at this point.
Oh.
Before we're going into our big monsters, our big boss monsters that we want to have on the field, we summon out SP Little Knight, because if our opponent waits with a possible Nibiru, we now have something to preserve those monsters and get them back in the end phase from banishment.
So there is the Tekutlika coming down now. 5,000 attack points, 5,000 defense points. If that would not already be alone, also, of course, the effect. Now, in the end phase, we can use the effect of the field spell.
Yeah.
Now, the part that surprises me, because from my personal experience, you want to run one of the Memento trap cards, either the Cranium Burst or the Fracture Dance, which could be set in the end phase through the field spell. And we just saw him setting the Fusion again there, which is not necessarily going to do anything on his opponent's turn.
I think it does, because if you summon out another Creation King, there you have your interruption that pops multiple cards. And I think that both of the duelists that we have been looking at that are running the Memento deck, they are running the trap cards in the side deck. Of course, I'm not going to say who else is playing Memento in this tournament, but we were eyeing some different people.
Oh my! There is Raigeki being the first card activated from Jonathan, who, contrary to a lot of other Tenpai duelists that we have seen throughout this tournament so far, is not going with the approach of running a lot of hand interactions. As you just saw, he didn't use any on the turn of Richard, but that Raigeki now is going to be pretty insane.
Yeah, I like it. There's all these, new fancy Memento cards.
Yeah. And
Jonathan,
you just throw down a Legend of Blue
school.
Eyes Raigeki on all of that. All right, I mean, we can chain the SP Little Knight, but how much is that going to do?
And the question now is, what is the Fusion also going to do? Because if you summon out the big Creation King, the Tekutlikan, then that's not going to help you too much, because it needs to destroy other monsters on the field. And now we're going to activate the Feast Spell and get the Tri-Horned Dragon in there. And this one is a pretty interesting one, because if this one gets destroyed, you get to destroy 3 cards on the field, one of which has to be a Mentodon monster. And I mean, I don't see another one on the field right now. Maybe if we get to Fusion Summon and use material from the graveyard, we can establish another one on there. However, I think that you have to destroy a card first before you can activate the Fusion to use material from the graveyard, right?
I mean, funnily enough, Jonathan kind of did the work for Richard here by activating that Raigeki and destroying that Tekutlika, so that could already be all he needs.
Yeah, if a monster in your possession was destroyed, you're absolutely right. That is actually decent for him then.
There you go. Yeah, so that does enable the fusion to fusion summon from the graveyard. So that is all that Richard needed. So Richard may actually be very, very fine with that Raigeki ultimately, because the rabbit already did what it was supposed to do by setting that Azurune.
And I think we didn't even see that there was a Ghost Ogre on the second summoning, and that is so big right here.
Fadra coming down, and Fadra is not the monster you want to summon with 0 dragon monsters in your graveyard, to be fair.
Yeah, this is a super cool showing from the Memento deck. Like, it looks so much fun. Like, the ability to search any other card from your deck just does seem like a ridiculous thing to do. Almost reminds me of Necros with the, like, every card can search every other card kind of vibe.
Absolutely, and I think we just headed into the battle phase here, which is still dangerous turn for Richard here, because Jonathan could activate cards like Sengen Kaiman, or mainly Sengen Kaiman to be honest, to get that Chandra potentially from the deck.
So do we have to use the fusion in the main phase?
Oh, and this is another Bone Party.
Bone Party is coming down. Another quick spell. Nicely enough for Richard. Both the Bone Party and the fusion are both quick spells. So we're going with that first. We destroy the Trihorn Dragon to fusion summon and to special summon out the Sleepy here. That will, of course, trigger the... Yep, that triggers the Trihorn Dragon. We destroy our own cards, 2 of them, and also the Fadra.
Question is, does the Sleepy also do something when it gets destroyed?
Of course it does.
They all do things when they get destroyed. I think that's the idea.
That's a very good point. Karibo is being
Look at that. Gatic coming back to the field. We're also recovering Sleepy to the hand.
That's the Wretched Ghost of the Attic and not a Karibo.
Oh, that's a classic card, Wretched Ghost of the Attic.
Totally. And Jonathan, even though it's only a monster with a mere 550 attack points left on the field, it looks like Richard is completely denying the turn of Jonathan. Pretty certainly, I believe we are in the main phase 2 now, where we are going to use the Mementolian Fusion now too, and we're going to bring out, I'm almost certain, a second copy of that Tekutlika from the extra deck. Or is it going to be... Should be the Tekutlika, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely just need 3 Memento monsters.
There we go.
And it has a quick effect to destroy cards on either side of the field?
Yep, but you have to destroy as many Memento cards as cards that you want to destroy for your opponent.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, this thing has 3,000 attack points. Then we would still be able to bring back the main deck version of the Tekutlika, and 5,000 plus 3,000, that's just 8,000, right?
I think we just shuffled away 20 cards from our graveyard.
But I mean, it's just going to come back, trust me. I know my Memento ways, and Memento is just going to bring that Tekutlika from the main deck straight to the graveyard pretty shortly again, because that is mainly what the Tatsu Nishugo, no wait, I murdered that name, but Tatsu no Chigo, I mean I almost got it actually, it can just send so many cards from the deck to the graveyard, and that would be also including the Tekutlika, of course.
I think we're also going to get there. However, we're playing a little bit into Nibiru. If you go through many motions, it would have been much more convenient to just summon a 5,000 attack point monster straight from the graveyard.
Fair.
But yeah, looking at that graveyard, there is just basically a bunch of hand traps, and spells doesn't help too much. However, also those spells have effects in the graveyard. And now in the end phase, apparently, we also get to get 500 cards here.
So that's
I was going
the
to say,
Goblin.
this was still Jonathan's turn, right? No.
That's the Mace and the Trihorn Dragon, and they're all sent to the graveyard. As I told you, there's always ways with Memento to bring cards back to the graveyard, my friend.
It's all filled up again now.
There we go. And Jonathan is just checking the situation. But is there going to be anything else that he wants to do? Because maybe that wasn't... Oh, okay, all right. I mean, we're apparently still in the main phase. So, right, Geki number 2 getting rid of the second Tekutlika as well.
And this one will now, eventually in the next turn, also have the ability to banish itself from the graveyard to fetch another spell card from the Mementolian archetype.
But will Richard get another turn? I mean, there must be more things coming out of his graveyard or something like that.
Oh, we're checking our last card, but it's not going to be responded with here.
So here comes what's presumably a Chandra.
Yeah. It is a Chandra, but I mean, we are in the main phase again, right? So that
I think this
must
should
be
be
Must be the
missed
battle
one.
phase,
Yeah.
right?
But how
He
did we activate
activated
the
Raigeki.
Raigeki? Yeah. Okay.
When did he go in his battle phase the first time?
With Fadra.
That's what we thought, but maybe that was
No.
just all in the main phase. But there's Azurun now being activated. And funnily enough, I mean, Azurun
How
could
big is
protect
it?
against these Synchro Summons, and Azurun, in terms of stats, is going to be a cool 1,800 attack points here, staring down that Chandra.
That's bigger than Chandra.
Yeah, and I mean, Chandra right now, of course, not being protected, right?
Yes, we're going to the battle phase and we're getting an attack.
There comes Befadra.
How big is They're all like 1,600, right?
So Chandra is
Yeah,
1,500 and Fadra is 1,600, yeah.
The monsters that are supposed to go to the battle phase and do a load of battles, they're all very small.
Alright, but now the thing is, we can also... Oh, Fadra can bring back Fadra. That's actually very relevant here. I thought it would be everything but itself, but that is not going to be the case. We can indeed bring back the copy of Fadra there.
So if the statue actually works like the tributing effect of Ryo, you will not be able to negate the Synchro Summon because those are being done by the effect of the Tenpai Dragons.
Is it immediately after this effect resolves Synchro Summon a monster though?
Oh, that might also be...
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how it is worded.
Alright, perfect. Yeah, true.
Well, maybe you can activate one of them and then activate another one in the same chain, and that would play around it.
Okay, we're just going to bring out the Biden Dragon. Let's see whether
Think you're
there's a
just
way to respond to that.
Negating the monster and not the effect.
Oh, Chandra.
Doesn't it negate the summon?
It
So-
is negating the summon.
Yeah, so if you use one Tenpai as chaining 1 and then another one as chaining 2, then the Biden Dragon will be summoned chaining 2.
No response. We were celebrating how much Richard generated there, how many cards he got into rotation, how many cards he was filling his graveyard up with. But we are now in the battle phase, and all of a sudden Jonathan keeps on attacking with monsters. He keeps on summoning monsters as well. And that Biden Dragon there is actually like really good because as he's getting to 3 attacks and that card goes into the graveyard, he may also attack with that again as he could resummon it. And there we go.
I'm gonna be honest, we all
Oh,
got a little
wait.
bit confused there during that turn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we now use the effect of Azarun, right? Because there's no other explanations
Yeah.
for the Biden Dragon to go to the graveyard.
Yeah, but how did the Fadra come back?
The Fadra brought the Fadra. Oh, yeah, you're right. True.
Like, it must have been summoned properly, otherwise this is not how it would work. Does the Azarun destroy something when it destroys it or something like that?
We are just double
It
checking
says
on that.
negate the summon, so if it negated the summon of the Biden Dragon, it couldn't come back because it wasn't summoned properly.
Yeah, but when it's destroyed in the monster card zone, then you can destroy a monster that destroyed it.
Oh, and now we're activating Sleepy.
There is so much going on here.
Yes, it's great.
Were we not able to negate the Biden Dragon? I don't know.
Okay, so Sleepy is now going to activate, and Sleepy is going to make sure during the turn a monster in your possession was destroyed, you can just special summon this card from your hand. So it doesn't really matter when. We can now just, at a pleasant time of being in the battle phase, decide to use the effect of Sleepy to bring it out as a final defense, kinda.
Yep, and this one will then immediately be able to fusion summon as well. But it has to fusion summon a Memento monster, and I think that we are all out of Memento fusion monsters at this point.
And you can't use any more from your grave.
Yeah.
There's been a lot going on.
So we are going to go for our extra deck right now. Jonathan not done synchro summoning just yet. And I mean, we're also, of course, having a look at our bingo sheet, right? And we're trying to get to 3 synchro summons in 1 turn with that as well. So we may get there this turn. And of course, that would actually bring me quite closely to an actual bingo. But let's see what that happens here, because so far it was only 1 in that turn. But there is number 2 coming with the Trident Dragon.
Trident Dragon hitting the field, just facing that Sleepy there.
Is it going to
Activate.
destroy Fadra? What does that achieve?
Yeah, gets another attack then?
Kind of.
And I mean, Richard is on 3,000 attack points, right? And now
Oh.
he is packing up because he can just run over it with the Trident Dragon. And now Tenpai did it again and stole another game here on stream, defeating Richard in the first round of this game.
Honestly, Tom, I told you about it last round, but Leo, you weren't around for that. I praised for Tenpai Dragon players. I praised the deck. I have high hopes, and it's actually my pick to win the entire thing this weekend. Yeah.
The Bastian is on an absolute run again in naming players, the ones he is a fan of, and decks that are going to win the event.
Once more.
But you might be onto something. I mean, the deck with Genroku has received phenomenal support. There's actually quite some cool tech cards that you can now play for the mirror match as well. So there's plenty of new cool stuff going on with the Tenpai deck. But I'm still excited to see if Fiendsmith can win, because like this was not the ideal combo. It just started with a mace.
Yeah.
So I think
We were kind of in between wondering whether that was maybe still a very, very good combo, but I think the combo can just get so much better if we, for example, start with one of our better starters like the Darkblade. The Darkblade is like the main starter, which is really good. Of course, Anguish is kind of a nice starter as well. That works pretty well too. But starting with one of your one-offs, I mean, you can tell what are the good starters in your deck and what are the ones you don't really want to have, but just judging by the numbers they are included in your main deck. And there's triple Darkblade, there's triple Anguish, but just one Goblin, one Maze, one Gaddock. So kind of obvious to see which ones are good to start with and which ones are rather not. So I hope he's getting some of the ones that he wants this time around.
But still, like, Richard got to do everything he wanted to do, and his opponent had 2 Raigekis. I mean, is that something a modern deck should be prepared to face? Like, what do you think?
I mean, did he do everything he wanted to do?
I was going to say that.
Like
Who
the
are you to
Fiendsmith
judge that
cards,
this
for
was
example,
everything that Memento can
They
do?
didn't really result into anything, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but he was completely uninterrupted, is what I meant.
Yeah,
when I say
that
everything
is
he
true.
wanted
That's
to
true.
do, like.
But there was double Raigeki. How could you disregard the power of double Raigeki coming down? And you saw it completely demolishing his opponents.
You could negate that with a Desiree, and I think that if you're running a Fiendsmith package, then you should at some point be able to summon one of those. If you're
I mean,
uninterrupted in a
you might
full
actually have
combo.
a problem with that, as Richard has decided not to run Desiree. I
All
just
right,
found
fair
out. Which is actually somewhat of a trend this weekend, right?
Yeah.
We saw multiple extra decks that just included no Desiree at all whatsoever, and just really went with an approach of just having the Lacrima to extend into more monsters, having more monsters on the field to link summon up into more stuff. Another card that we do see in the extra deck of Richard, though, is Guardian Chimera. Interestingly enough, usually a card you see in Chimera, you see in Branded, but you usually wouldn't see in that kind of deck that we are seeing here. But Memento Infusion actually doesn't say that you have to summon out a Memento monster. You can actually just go with that Guardian Chimera instead. And of course, that card has been resolved plenty of times on stream for a very, very good effect.
And it is so good. You can either pop 1 card and draw 2, or pop 2 cards and draw 1, which is just as phenomenal. It's a very situational card as well. You can just use it however you want to. But I think that our players have drawn their opening 5 cards in hand. So let's go over to the table.
So, Leo, as the Memento expert, or is it Basti that's the Memento expert?
We're both.
Are you happy going second? Would you let the
That's
Tenpai
the
player
big
go
question
first?
here, isn't it?
Sure.
Very, very important moment. And I think Jonathan is announcing Faces seemingly going first in that scenario. And no, it is not. It's going to be Richard starting, and he has one of the better starters this time around. He does have the Anguish. That is going to be his normal summon of choice, and he's going to be quite happy to be able to start off with that, because that is going to immediately grab that Tatsuno Chigo from his deck, which I explained to you plenty of times now, is the main card you want to have, because it is just going to special summon itself out for free, and now the second effect of it will be able to destroy so many cards from his deck.
Yeah, I think you're actually just sending the cards from the deck so they don't trigger. But
Yeah,
you
that
can-
would be
you
too
can
good.
destroy it,
Let's
so-
be real, that would be just a bit
That
too
is
much.
true.
Is that Anguish Mystical Sand? What do you reckon?
Are we trying to figure out what the original version of it is?
Yeah.
Fair. Okay, so that is now going to bring back
100%.
the...
100% Mystical Sand. All right.
That's going to
I'll take
bring
it. Do I get
back
a bingo?
the... Was that the
Something?
Maze? I think we brought that Maze, right?
I'm not sure, because this one is a spellcaster, and I think so far they have kept the original types.
Ah.
However,
A different kind of witch.
there is just a bunch of cards in the graveyard. Now we are already set up with 5 monsters. We have destroyed something, so Memento and Fusion is just significantly better now. And are we just immediately going for a 3 material fusion, or are we going for the Twin Dragon instead?
I feel like Twin Dragon you want to use on your own turn, but maybe not. Maybe we're going to start with the other one. It is bigger after all.
So for the people wondering, and I mean, we were also kind of confused by that, what went down in the battle phase very last game. Actually, there was Chandra Chaining 1 and Fadra Chaining 2 to prevent the Azarun to negate, and then the Bident actually destroyed the Azarun, and then the Azarun effect destroyed it as well. So it was a bit of a back and forth, but Jonathan successfully played around the negation effect of the Azarun there.
Yeah, that's a gold star. That's the idea I was thinking of, so I'm glad Jonathan had the same idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when Azaruna is destroyed in the monster zone, of course, it can destroy one monster that destroyed this card. So that ended up destroying the Bident. But yeah, that wasn't gone for long. He just brought it back afterwards, and therefore that was legally brought back because the summon itself was not negated. So that explained everything we were wondering about, kind of. All right, but we are back to the extra deck. We are back to the powerful fusions. We are back to the creation king of the Tikutika, and we are still going strong. And Tom, you were wondering whether that wasn't everything he could have ever wished for in Game 1. I think we're going to see more this time, though.
Yep, because after side decking, the Memento Fracture Dance is also in the deck, was already sent to the graveyard, and is in the end phase going to probably be set back.
Honestly, I personally even may like Cranium Burst more, to be honest, because Cranium Burst actually is the other trap card that is in his deck, and he's also side-decking it. So he's like actually siding Cranium Burst and Fracture Dance, so he has the choice to do that. And Cranium Burst is a continuous trap card, which would be able to then negate multiple monsters. Of course, one issue of that could be the field spell of the Tenpai deck, of course, though. So it will be interesting to see which one he decides to go for.
To be honest, Fracture Dance also has a really cool graveyard effect, especially against the Tenpai Dragon deck, which is banishing, if an attack is declared, banishing it from the graveyard, and all of the monsters on the field currently lose 2,000 attacks, so that can save you some life points.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess against Tenpai, that actually does make sense. That's kind of niche, but especially against Tenpai, that could be coming in, for sure.
I just think Mementos seem like they have a lot of fun. Like, they have Bone Party, they have Fracture Dance.
Totally.
They have Cranium Burst. I don't know. It sounds like all of their cards are about partying.
And I mean, look at Richard. He's joining the party. He's having the time of his life here with the Memento deck at the European World Championship qualifier, live from Berlin, being 5-0 in the tournament. Of course, now being down a game here against Jonathan, but still showing us what the Memento deck is very good at here currently.
And I mean, it seems like he has a very valid answer against the strategy of the Tenpais, because usually people let Tenpai go first after they lost the first game against it. But he decided to confidently go first, pull off his combo, yet again, even in a better form, because the last one just was not ideal. And now he's, I mean, he's just having a field day here. He is just popping off, and I'm thinking that there is going to be something that is going to completely shut down.
Okay, the Bone Party now. Bone Party is going to destroy the Tekutlika from his hand. And we're going to bring out the Dark Blade finally. About time! First time we see it being summoned here. And that is actually, next to the Anguish, one of the best main deck monsters the card has to offer. The deck has to offer, of course.
We haven't seen that at all in the last game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And there is the Goblin now as well, and Richard is way happier with what he's able to do here at the moment. Also, of course, the Engraver being a good resource in the graveyard.
And we're just hard summoning SP Little Knight on our turn again, in the extra monster zone even.
Tom, how do you like that?
What is the anti-Raigeki technology going to be? That's what I want to see. How do we deal with it?
It was SP Little Knight in the first game.
I mean, that just made us have less monsters, right?
That is true.
I think Raigeki did its job. If SP Little Knight clears them, who cares, you know?
That is true. You just need this one turn. Who cares about what's returning in the end phase? We're just going to set 3 cards here.
Is that really more than last time around? I'm not sure.
Is that the anti-Raigeki technology to just
there you
have
go, set spells and traps? This is a Labyrinth combo.
Oh, but there is now going to be the Fracture Dance. Leo, you won. We went with the Fracture Dance. I mean, potentially the other trap card, the Cranium Burst, is already hard drawn, waiting in the hand, but that is at least the Fracture Dance that we will have to deal with here.
But is there maybe a lightning storm that
Oh,
could
that
be
would be
detrimental?
crucial. Oh, are we going to do something preemptively here? Doesn't look like it. Main phase it is for Jonathan. Oh no, wait, the draw phase first of all, of course. It felt like they were already communicating about phases, but we are going to bring it over to Jonathan now. Is he going to have a turn like he had last game, just having 2 turns in total for the entire match? That would be kind of crazy, but kind of Tenpai-esque as well.
Yeah, I don't think Tenpai is very happy if there's only 2 turns for
Yeah,
him in the match.
absolutely.
That probably means they won.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. So that is terraforming.
That is quite interesting because I have seen the Sangan summoning in his hand already, so we're trying to thin our deck here.
No respect to the Dual Lockbird.
Exactly. But I mean, Richard seems to search a lot on his turn as well, or on your turn as well, so...
You're right, unlikely to see Droll and Lockbird being included in his deck, and I can tell you by just browsing for his deck list, there really is none of that. But it feels like Jonathan has drawn into a lot of engine, and usually with the Tenpai Dragon deck, you only need 1 or 2 pieces of engine that is going to bring you to so many different ways of bringing more monsters onto the field, and you rather want to have all the other cards being destructive to the opponent's strategy, either in the way of interrupting them to play or just breaking their field quite efficiently with cards like Raigeki and Lightning Storm and so on and so forth. But here it looks like we're having more monsters.
A friend of mine who made top 16 with Tenpai at the German National Championships compared it to Exodia and said it is all about having the different pieces just against every single deck. It's different pieces that you need.
I'm putting Exodia on the bingo then.
Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. And honestly, I feel like that's quite the opposite of Exodia, right? Because you're actually needing like always different pieces and not just the 5 pieces. But fair enough. I'll respect his opinion because he made top cuts, because that validates everything you say, of course. As we all know. Okay, we bring out the Chandra now.
Now there is nothing being activated. Of course, Sangan Summoning is still face up on the field. We have a Called by the Grave as well in hand for Jonathan. If there was something crazy in the battle phase that could activate in the graveyard. Actually, there might be something. I'm not too sure about the interactions that we're going to see from Richard this turn, but it seems like, okay.
Very early.
We're dancing, we're dancing.
We're going for the Cranium. No, for the Fractured Dance. Fractured Dance is going to destroy the Sangan Summoning, and that could maybe be an indicator for him also having a way to deal with the Chandra here. Oh, chaining Forbidden Droplet though. I was saying that you need some kind of non-engine, some kind of disruptive stuff to your opponent's action, and we have that Forbidden Droplet here.
But what are we dropleting? Because I think now you can just respond with SP Little Knight, right?
For now you could, yeah.
If you've not sent a monster, then yeah.
But I mean, if you go
respond
SP
to
Little
anything.
Knight, that would still just mean that there is no way to resolve the Fracture Dance anymore, right? Because we already targeted the Sangan Summoning.
And we saw Mace. This is after the... I'm not sure what ended up being targeted by the droplets. Maybe Mace was just a new chain.
Yeah, oh, and that is, of course, also a way to bring back the Tekudlika. That's strong, but imagine just another Raigeki coming down here now from Jonathan. That would be so good, but seems like Jonathan wants to end the main phase here.
Oh, are we going to see a rare, evenly matched technology?
No,
We have
we're
Sangan
not, but we're
Kaiman.
seeing Sangan Kaiman instead.
I think that's a bit much for Tenpai.
Yeah.
You could try.
Leo, I know your deck building is always on point, but that one might be a bit,
Thank you.
a bit experimental for my personal taste, bringing evenly matched into the Tenpai Dragon strategy.
Really appreciate it.
There is Chandra, though.
We're sticking to the Chandra. And Jonathan actually, as you can see, expected to being let go first in this matchup, because I saw a Koakimaru Drago in this deck.
Yeah. That is always a bit of a gamble when you're playing the Tenpai Dragon strategy, because game 2 and 3, you just can't tell for sure. I mean, if you decide, you will be able to know, but when your opponent has the right to decide who to go first, who to go second, you can always just guess and then hopefully make the right decisions while side decking.
What are the attributes of all of these monsters?
Oh, Infinite Impermanence on the Chandra. You're speaking about the Memento monsters?
Yeah, they all look different, so I don't know how good
Oh,
That's
doesn't
the
matter
fist
for
bump.
this game, because Jonathan is going to give it up and Richard is going to take down game number 2. So the decision to go first here for Richard perfectly paid off. he equaled the score. And they have like roughly 10 minutes left for the third game. And I mean, Tenpai games can be quick, but with only 11 minutes left on the clock, can you afford to go second? Is that going to be a thing? Is there... I mean, there was Fiendsmith Lacrima in the extra deck of Richard Schaber here.
That answers the questions that you didn't ask, right?
But to be fair, we never saw Richard actually fusion summon with his Fiendsmith cards, right? So you may expect him to just not even run any of the fusion monsters, right? So you could maybe take the risk of going second.
Lacrima.
Did we see Lacrima? I don't remember.
I mean, if you see a sequence... and the Fiendsmith Engraver, I think you have to assume that there's something that can be fusion summoned there.
Fair. Yeah, absolutely, you're right.
To be honest, if you're not fusion summoning, sequence not that bad, not that good of a card.
It's a link too, I guess that works. But no, you're right, you're right. So Lacrima might be the win condition if you decide to send Richard first, because we saw it. Those Mementolian turns, they take ages. He was comboing and comboing, destroying cards, searching cards, setting cards, everything. And that kind of turn is risky if you decide actively to send them first with so little time left on the clock.
But is there a solid plan for Tenpai going first? I don't think Drago gets you there. I think they're all just different attributes. So what's the game plan?
Dimensional Barrier would be one of the going first options they could bring in, but that is not really valuable against that deck either.
Oh, it is.
But is it really
You're
though?
fusion summoning so much with this deck.
Yeah, probably you're right. I like another option maybe a little more though. There's Heatwave in there, and I think Heatwave was kind of abundant by a lot of the Tenpai players, but still Jonathan has decided to include it, and that could be a good option to bring in here when you on purpose decide to go first. And then it's only a one-off, but maybe it comes in Rivalry of Warlords. We just talked about it. All different types, all different attributes. So Rivalry of Warlords kind of shuts down the deck immediately.
To be honest, I'm not even too sure if that is true, because those cards most of the time destroy themselves, or as you could see Mace in the first one, destroy itself and then special summon something. But I don't know how far this deck can go by just destroying one monster and special summoning out another. So I think that maybe there could be a problem. However, if you're going for the Fiendsmith engine, if you're starting with that, you could go for a Desiree whilst only being in those Fiend monsters and then negating the rivalry to play on.
Absolutely, but it looks like Richard has also decided to tailor his non-engine kind of towards the Tenpai deck as well, because Ghost Ogre is in his main deck. We saw that in game 1, which is very, very good versus the Sengen Summoning. And then also he's supporting that with more cards like the Bestials, which also in the battle phase can sometimes deny the final damage coming through by just summoning out the Druid's Worm or something. And therefore there is a couple of ways. Also, of course, Ash Blossom and Joy Spring on Sengen Kaiman can be so powerful a lot of the times too. So I could definitely see this going into both directions. I have no real crystal clear call on who could win this, besides me being very, very happy with the Tenpai strategy overall this weekend. So I'm kind of favoring Tenpai.
I mean, I know you said Tenpai, but none of us said Memento, so we don't, we're happy to let Tenpai win this one.
For sure. I'm not decided yet, but the players are going to be the one making the decisions now. They are going to decide the outcome of this match, and so we're going to see it now in game number 3, which starts now.
Alrighty then, who is going to go first? Is it Richard or is it going to be Jonathan? Oh, and Jonathan, I can see the heat wave in his hand, and that is phenomenal for him.
First of all, the Dimension Shifter is what we're starting with, and we're following it up with the Heat Wave, and that is crazy because that kind of shuts down the entire deck of Richard, because not only everything gets banished, as does the Heat Wave, but also neither player can normal or special summon effect monsters until your next draw phase. So Richard kind of only able to set cards to his spell trap zone, and he doesn't do that. He just passes it right over to Jonathan, who now, with his Tenpai deck, of course, has the game in front of him. Empty field, nothing to fear.
Oh, to be a crawler player right now and to set some monsters, but now we have an effect player onto the Hydra immediately. Chandra is being special summoned.
Chandra is there.
That is already looking
Chandra already was there.
Richard is not looking too happy about this. However, there is quite the hand for him, to be honest.
Do we have into the battle phase? It seems like it, yeah.
And I think that there is multiple copies of the Infinite Impermanence which can still be used in the battle phase.
Oh, he's considering it.
Is it not worth setting one before?
Impermanence is going to come down, and we're going to negate the Chandra.
Well, there's plenty of lightning storms in the deck. I don't think that...
Do you have Lightning Storm guy? I don't know anymore.
They decided to go first. I mean, yeah, it could be, but maybe not. Honestly, kind of an interesting decision to me personally that Jonathan decided to use the Dimension Shifter on his own turn, because he could have actively decided to use it on his opponent's turn.
Could he actually activate Vela?
I mean, the Dimension Shifter is over. That's what I'm talking about, you know? Because he decided to use it on his first turn, but he could have also used it on his opponent's turn, and then he would have been
the Heat Wave, yeah.
But the Heat Wave, oh, it would have been in the graveyard. Okay, yeah, I'm just dreaming about scenarios for the Tenpai deck, but that would, of course, not been possible. But we are going to still be in the battle phase. Yeah, that's just my thing this weekend.
But now we can't synchro summon, right? Because of the...
Yeah, both are negated, for sure.
Is this main phase 2 then?
This might be main phase. Yeah, there is the infinite impermanence showing Jonathan, hey, this is not a thing anymore. You just can't do that always. And Jonathan is laughing. He's like, oh wow, this is not how I was planning this.
Yeah, we're just so used to always synchro summoning in the battle phase, so for us it was completely obvious to do it here as well. But both of the monsters, and Jonathan looks at both of the cards in the graveyard, are of course negated. Yeah.
Wait, my monster is negated?
I can't work with that. Why is my monster negated? No way that's the case here.
We're discussing a little bit, but the time is getting lower and lower.
Yeah, I think Richard had another impermanence in his hand that he was fully expecting to use on a Biden Dragon that was like synchro summoned in response to the first impermanence, but that we never even got there.
That never happened. Now he just has an extra impermanence. That's nice. You can use that on a possible seal that might be summoned at the end of the turn, or basically in main phase 2. Yep, there it is.
The seal indeed.
So you can stop the bounce. You won't stop the Drago from coming out if it is still in the deck, which I highly assume. And now...
Yeah, you could go after Dragon. I mean, to be fair, there is a couple of dark monsters in the deck of Richard. So Angwitch is dark, Gaddick is dark, Goblin is dark. So there definitely is ways how that could be good. But Infinite Permanence certainly was used on the seal now. And the next card we're going to activate is the Field Spell. We're following it up with the Memento Miglan. Oh, yes. Using the effect of the Heretic Seal.
And
there's the Ash Blossom to prevent the special summon effect. The field of Jonathan is empty, and we have the Tatsuni Shogo as well to follow it up as well. And now we just have to use the 4 minutes to overcome the deficit of 3,200 life points that is currently...
And I think that there is a combined creation in the deck that has 5,000 attack points, which would be plenty of damage. We're not sending it yet. We are sending the Goblin, we are sending a Mace, and we're sending Sleepy, of course, as well. Now, let's see. We're going to get the Fusion out. Fusion. Which card has been destroyed this turn? I don't think that we have destroyed anything so far. Droll and Lockbird is going to be activated on Resolve. We have 1 card left on Jonathan's hand. The Fusion is going to be activated. But when was something destroyed? Did we destroy?
The Tatsuni Shogo, I think itself also just destroyed it, right?
A lot of stuff destroyed itself.
All right, Droll and Lockbird is going to be activated, but still the Fusion is going to happen here. Richard going for his extra deck, of course, searching for his most powerful extra deck monster, the Tekudlikar, the Creation King. That's 3,000 attack points. We're missing a little here, though, if we want to get ahead in life points.
Yep, that is true. We're sending the Gaddick, and we just sent away 3 monsters from the graveyard, so we still need plenty of stuff to summon out the big creation to go for this big 8,000 push, or rather just a 5,000 push. That would be enough, I suppose.
But there at least is going to be the main deck to quickly cut back into the graveyard.
Gaddick summoned back. Get those 5 monsters in there.
Dark Blade effect as well. Look at that.
Good.
We're working through it. And I mean, of course, we're still having the technology of Link summoning available to us. So there is ways to bring those Memento monsters into the graveyard. And I think when we're linking up these, we could be at 5 now, right? With now also the Angwitch being in graveyard, I think we're getting there. I'm pretty sure we're getting there. Look at that. Richard is already getting it onto the field. There is the Tekudliga coming down. 5,000 attack points provided. Heading into the battle phase we are. And Richard is going to attack. 3,000, 5,000, and the game for Richard Schaber and his Memento deck, and the crowd loves it.
What a finish to this. Most of these decks, they are struggling to do OTKs at all with like just the Fiendsmith engine. But he was just saying, hey, while the other players take like 8 to 9 minutes for their OTKs, I'm just going to summon 2 monsters that have 3,000 and 5,000 attack points, and now we're just going to ram these into your life points.
Plain and simple. Attack points. Hasn't been in a hot minute that those have been so relevant, right?
Yeah.
Just attacking for 5,000. When have you seen the last monster with 5,000 attack points on the field? Just regular
now.
5,000 attack points printed on the card, right? I don't think I've ever seen it in a
Have you
feature
played?
match.
Yeah, I was going to say, and if you're playing a bit
When
of
did you see
time
that
wizard
one? Yeah,
format,
okay.
Future Fusion,
yeah.
there we go.
Fair. That's a good point.
By the time that's got onto play, though, normally things have gone very, very wrong for you.
That is indeed true. But yeah, that was impressive. And as you were already a little spoilering, not even the only Memento player in the tournament doing well. So apparently that is a strategy that could be maybe catching people off guard this weekend. That could even be represented in the top cut multiple times. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a super cool strategy. It looks very flexible. It looks like all of the cards can access all of the other cards. And if your opponent doesn't know what they're doing, which I guess you might not, then it's always a massive advantage to go in with a deck like that.
I think everyone is just now reading up on Neuron what all of these cards are doing and trying to figure out the combos. Because we have a format where people play plenty of hand trips, you know, 18 to 20, 21 maybe even in some decks. And if you're playing against a deck of which you don't know when to interrupt it, you might as well waste your cards in hand for absolutely nothing. Sometimes you throw hand traps and they don't do anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you know against these rogue decks when to exactly interrupt them, one hand trap is enough.
That's the thing. When you're deciding to go down that route, when you decide to take that approach of using hand interactions, you have to know when to interact with your opponent, which is easy versus those top meta decks, but tough to understand against those more rogue decks. So sometimes, maybe if you're not super aware of the format, going with the approach of just playing Dark Riddle or Mornstone is easier, right? Because you just don't have to make those decisions. You just put down that Dark Riddle more as a singular card and it just eliminates everything that was there
I
before.
thought you meant to say Raigeki.
I mean, yeah, Raigeki kind of did the job there as well, but he lost the match, right?
Not when he drew Raigeki.
To be honest,
Fair
talking
enough.
about the format, I don't even think that it is necessarily easier to know when to throw hand traps against the Snake Eyes Fiendsmith deck or against Yubel.
Yeah.
However, you just know the deck a lot better, right? You just, just realize the choke points. But even then, yesterday, we saw people reinventing the way to throw hand traps against the deck. We saw Anthony Lopez throwing it on Flambert to put IP into the Spell and Trap Zone and then Impermanence onto the Appaloosa, basically taking away all of Gabriel Netz's field.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive and pretty creative as well.
Yeah.
So definitely something to be on the lookout for throughout the rest of the weekend, where we're seeing the people using their hand interactions, whether that's even going to be the most popular strategy, going with the hand interaction approach, or whether the field breaking approach is going to be very relevant at the top tables. Because, of course, I mean, we're already done with 6 rounds, but there's still so many more to come. Like, we're halfway through the rounds of Swiss, so there's still plenty of stuff still to happen. So even though the players are now 6-0, they could just lose 3 rounds in a row now, and then they would already be out after day 1, kind of. But still, 6-0 at this point, good start, don't get me wrong.
I mean, it's super impressive, and even though we're a long way from the top cut, we've still got 5 or 6 more rounds. You're still playing really good players now. If you're 6-0, you know, they've had to battle through 6 rounds. You know, that's not many players already who have got that 6-0 score, right?
And probably all of the 6-0 players at the moment, just as you were saying, opening the Neuron app and scrolling through those Memento cards, being like, oh no, I could be paired up against Richard now, and he looked pretty sharp on feature. So I want to know what's going on with the Memento deck. Maybe they should rewatch the feature match we just had, or maybe they should listen to the winners interview that's about to come up with Richard, because he might be giving away some information on that. Who knows, who knows?
I actually really want to know why he chose to play the Memento deck, and I think that we are just about ready, so let's shoot it over to Ed.
Thank you very much, Leo. Yes, I am indeed joined by Richard Schaber, who's just won that round 6 feature match and is now 6-0 here at the European World Championship qualifier in Berlin. Congratulations, Richard. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. This is the best record I had so far at the European Championship.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What were the other 5 matches against, if you remember?
I won against Wright, Runicstan.
Oh, God.
3rd round, I can't remember. 5th and 6th round were both Fiends and Snake Eyes.
Now, I've said this to everyone so far. Fiend, Snake Eye, like, we know that is everywhere. How are you finding those matchups? I'm guessing the fact that you've already beaten 2 of them means you're doing quite well against them.
So The answer is hand traps. If they manage to build a full board against me, you cannot win. That's yeah. So hand trap, hand trap, hand trap.
Okay. And is there anything you're currently scared of going up against, or you're worried about, or are you feeling pretty confident with your deck?
It's probably Ubel. So I'm not that experienced in that matchup. So yeah, we will see how it goes.
And so talk to us about Memento. Why Memento? Why that one?
The answer is simple. I enjoy it the most.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it you enjoy about them? The way it plays? You like the
yes,
monsters?
the way it plays. You have so many options to do, to dodge your opponent's stuff. You can. There are so many lines. You can see, okay, if he stops me there, doesn't matter. I will just navigate around it and then summon my. And also, you have two big monsters. Nothing else has those two big monsters in his engine. Snake Eye has Flamberge Dragon, but I have two of them, basically.
You're right, it's a very good matchup. Let's just quickly go through some of the moments in these games. So obviously, right at the beginning, Jonathan Raigeki'd you.
Yes.
So how did you end up sort of navigating around that?
Yes, first Raigeki was no problem. I still had a lot of interruptions after that. Second one was a problem.
Yes, usually it's a problem if there's more than one there. You did manage to capitalize on that. Well, Jonathan managed to capitalize on that, and then you ended up scooping. So we went into game 2. So you started with a really formidable back row and that SP Little Knight and things. Jonathan kind of tried a forbidden droplet and things, but just ended up scooping. So let's talk about game 3, because Jonathan started with that D-shifter and heat wave and then passed. So when that's happening in game 3, with the time coming down, what's going through your mind?
I was actually happy when he activated heat wave.
Yeah?
Because this meant he cannot summon Heretic Seal.
True, very true.
Yes. So I knew, okay, I had 4 hand traps. I will just pass back to him and stop him again, just somehow survive, and then I can play.
Wow, brilliant. And I mean, it all paid off for you, so you did incredibly well. Congratulations, 6-0. I mean, already a great streak. And like you say, your best streak at a European so far.
Yes.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I'm going to usher you off to go and join Nadir. We've had to talk about this. We're going to have our first ever sort of duo. So you can put your mic down. You can go and join Nadir over in the analyst area. This is very exciting. So you know we've been doing our analysis where the commentators have been just talking about it. Well, now we're going to try out what it's like to sort of talk about it with the player themselves, going through those play-by-play. And Nadir is now with Richard to go through some of that round 6 match highlights. Take it away, Nadir.
Thank you, Ed. Hi, and welcome back, everyone. We're at the highlight reel here. We got a clip to show for you. Let's begin with clip number 1. Let's play that. So this is your first turn combo, as you can see here. Is this usually what you end on? Is this your full kind of board?
Yes, my plan is usually to end on the Rabbit, SP, and the combined creation with a lot of back rows, and this enables a lot of layered interactions in my opponent's turn.
Is this like, because I noticed that your starter here didn't exactly begin with the Engraver. It was the Sleepy, I think you started with, or the Gactic, I believe.
Sorry, I didn't understand you.
Was it the Gactic you started with, the Memento and Gactic?
I resolved the catching in a combo, but I started my combo with the with Mace.
A Mace, yeah, that's the one, sorry.
It's like the worst combo, but it works.
So were you surprised that there was no hand traps coming down at all, or?
So I knew I was playing against Tenpai since he let me start.
Okay, yeah.
So my main focus was on summoning the Rabbit no matter what. And if I get hand trapped, okay, I can recover somewhat from that. Fiends with Engraver enables this.
All right, let's look at clip number 2 here. I think this was into game number 2, I believe. Let's just bring that up here for a moment. And so during this point, I think we thought that your opponent had entered the battle phase, but they actually hadn't entered the battle phase. So I believe this is the end of main phase 1 we have here, where you're resolving your fusion. Was this the right way you think that your opponent played it, or did you preempt this? Because Memento and Fusion obviously is end of main phase only.
Yes, the problem was the end of main phase, and that I cannot only activate a fusion during the main phase. I had to summon something that stops him from resolving Sung Summoning in the battle phase, and then he had a second Raigeki, which left me defenseless.
Yeah, the second Raigeki, I mean, I'm sure you were surprised just to see one Raigeki in a main deck, never mind 2 of them.
I think I made a misplay here.
Okay.
I should not have destroyed that one Fatra that is in the graveyard over there. I had one effect Wailer in my hand that did nothing the entire turn. When he said end of battle main phase, I should have just dropped the effect Wailer onto the Fatra. This enables me to play around the double Synchro Summon to stop the Azaroon from negating the Synchro Summon.
Yeah, and the way he played around that Azaroon was because you activate the Chain Link 2 to Synchro Summon, So essentially, you missed the activation requirement for the Azurun. Let's take a look at clip number 4 here, going into game number 3. So I think you talked a little bit about this with Ed already, but turn 1, we have your opponent starting. Were you surprised, first of all, that he went first?
So this opening is like, I cannot play under shifter. When he activated the heat wave, I was happy, since he did not play as well.
And I think the most important thing is that you don't get sealed, which you did mention. Is it the Quakimeru Drago that comes out afterwards? That's the terrifying thing?
Drago can stop me, but not necessarily, since my big fusion is an Earth monster, and my really big monster is also an Earth monster. So like, half of my deck is Earth monsters, but some combo pieces are lightened up, yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the final clip here, clip number 6. I mean, this is essentially a home run at this point. You kind of just played through your combo here as your opponent drops the Droll and Lockbird. It didn't seem to do anything, right?
Sorry, again, please?
The Droll and Lockbird didn't seem to do anything here, right?
If I practice with the deck, or?
The Droll and Lockbird that he used against you.
Yeah. Droll is like 30% of the time he actually stops me.
Okay.
But I can circumvent him with the Gadget, since I just mill everything and add back the piece I need from my graveyard. So yeah, Droll and Lockbird, not really a good card against me.
Well, I mean, even under, I think that was even under 5 summons, you managed to put up just enough damage there. It must have felt absolutely amazing. The Creation King, 3,000 plus the
combined creation.
The combined creation, yeah. I guess, like, again, do you think it's right for a Tenpai player to choose to go first in that scenario? Is that, do you think, what maybe lost the game?
Yeah, it's correct for me to go first, since I can set up so many traps.
Yeah, okay. So ultimately, you know, letting your opponent go first, despite the heat wave, maybe still the play potentially?
Yeah, I had 4 hand traps, so the heat wave was okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Richard, for being here and give us a little analysis of your match. Thank you guys as well for tuning in. Let's get on back over to Ed, who will end this round off.